Estás viendo Canal América, televisión dominicana para el mundo.
Sometimes life can be so damn hard. You don't know where to go. Everything keeps falling apart. Yeah. You try to do your best, but only God knows that you've given everything you've got, but the world takes you down. You just keep moving on. Let your fears.
Welcome to A Time for Truth show. I'm your host, Dr. Bernard Fialkoff, and it's a pleasure to have you back with us again for this segment. And today we're going to cover something very, very important. Something that seems to be lacking and something that needs to be brought into society, and that's treating others the way you would want to be treated yourself. Not to treat others in an inferior way or a negative way or a prejudicial way. Because if you look at it, you wouldn't want that done to you. And so tonight, we're very honored to have a very special guest with us on The Time for Truth. Mayor Johny Ford, an engineer. If you please bring him up on the screen, there are the pictures of him. And I want to introduce the Honorable Johny Ford, Secretary General of the World Conference of Mayors, a graduate of Tuskegee Institute High School with a BA in History and Sociology from Knoxville College, a Master's of Public Administration from Auburn University, and the recipient of 4 honorary doctorate degrees. He's founding president of Historic Black Towns and Settlements Alliance, and he was first elected mayor of Tuskegee in 1972 as one of the first black mayors in Alabama. After serving 6 terms as mayor, he ran and won the state representative of the 82nd District from Macon County. In 2003, he became Alabama's first black Republican in the state legislature in more than 100 years. He's the president of Johny Ford and Associates and was appointed to the Presidential Advisory Committee on Federalism and the U.S. Intergovernmental Policy Advisory Committee on Trade. He's past president of the Alabama League of Municipalities, a member of Kappa Alpha Psi, founding president of the Tuskegee Optimist Club, ambassador for the state of the African diaspora. He's former chair and board member of the National Black Leadership Commission on Health. And Buddha, if you can put him up on the screen, I want a bit of warm welcome back to Mayor Johny Ford.
Hello there.
Hello, Mayor.
Hello there. Can you hear me? Let me just make a couple corrections. 5 honorary doctorate degrees. I would not want to forget Knoxville College, my alma mater. And I converted to the Republican Party because I couldn't get some things done in the Democratic Party at that time. I got those things done, including $35 million for the Tuskegee Airmen, more money for Tuskegee University, a plant that now employs some 500 people. Once we got all of those things done, I returned to the Democratic Party, and now I'm a state official at the state level for the Democratic Party. So here we are.
Well, thank you for the correction. And you know what? You get things done. And that's why tonight's show is so important. So I wanted to start right into, because you do so many activities and so many things that you're involved in. So I wanted to ask you, because you recently had the World Conference of Mayors. And so how did that turn out for you?
Oh, first of all, let me thank you, Doctor. Uh, Doctor, how do you say your name? How do you like to have it said? It looks like Dr. Fahrenkoff. How do you say it?
Fialkov.
Thialkov. Oh, outstanding. That's exactly what I was going to say. Dr. Thialkov. Listen, let me just thank you, Ben, if I may call you that. You may call me Johnny.
Absolutely.
It was just an honor to have you talk about addressing the worldwide problem of drugs. It is a global crisis. It is something that we must address. A drug-free world is something that we support from the World Conference of Mayors, and we thank you for speaking to us on that subject. It was an outstanding conference. Our goal and our theme was conquering COVID and other challenges facing the families of the world. We were very pleased to have top officials there from not only around the country, but from throughout the world, particularly from the CDC, giving us up-to-date information on how we can fight the COVID crisis in our community. The president of the foundation, the president of the National Business League, just leaders from all over the world. We had our international leaders there from across Africa, from across Haiti, from Canada, from Trinidad, from South America, from Taiwan. Other international leaders were there virtually because we had to do the conference virtually because of the COVID crisis. And then, of course, our national leaders from national organizations from around the country who collaborated with us, black legislators, black county officials, other black mayors, and members of the state legislatures of states across the country. So it was a great conference, and we came out of it, Doctor, with some major resolutions. It makes no sense to have a conference if you don't come up with some resolutions and stand for something and commit yourself to fight for something. And so we resolved that we would continue to fight for voting rights, equality. We resolved that we are going to fight to address the critical climate condition of our planet. We vowed that we're going to continue to fight against racism in this country and around the world. We vow that we're going to continue to support President Biden in his effort to conquer COVID, as well as the work of the World Health Organization and other global efforts that are being made to conquer COVID. And we particularly are committed to making sure we provide help to Africa and other developing countries as well. We vowed that we would continue to fight against hunger and malnutrition around the globe, to support our black farmers who have not been treated fairly and still haven't been paid in many instances. More help for our historic black colleges and historic black towns. And so I could go on, and we went on record in support of President Biden's effort to appoint an African-American woman to the Supreme Court. It is now time for that to happen. We continue to support a national holiday named in honor of Mrs. Rosa Parks, making her the first woman to have a federal holiday in honor of a woman in the United States of America. Women have done so much to make our country what it is today. Certainly, a woman needs to have a national holiday, and I can't think of anyone any better than Mother Rosa Parks. And so, thank you, Doc, for being there with us, and we are looking forward now to officially collaborating with your organization as we together approach and tackle this global crisis of drugs around the world.
Absolutely. I look forward to and bringing drug-free world to the whole group, making it safe in all those communities. Because, when we make that safe, then the youth can actually learn in school. The crime rate goes down since so many shootings really are just associated with drug use. And the most important thing, and something that was brought out at the conference and that you've spoken about, is that, you know, for someone to turn to drugs in the first place, they're already downtrodden. They're already having problems. They need somebody to speak to. And so, you know, I wanted to bring out something that rang home to me and that I remember from the conference, and that was the keynote speaker, Mayor Bell. And he said something that I thought was very important that I wanted to repeat on the show with us today, is that he says, we have the tools, we have the technology in today's world. What we do with them and whether we start doing something today will determine what happens tomorrow. So let's start today, and I'm paraphrasing him, but I found that so true. And, you know, I wanted to thank you for inviting me. I had a great time. You know, I'm looking forward to meeting with you in Tuskegee in person, because I was so excited for us to meet as a group. But I look forward to Tuskegee and definitely being there. So I wanted to bring something out that I spoke about in the introduction to this show, and that's human rights. And the engineer has a video. Engineer, please get that video ready on Rosa Parks. I'll let you know when to play it. But I wanted to ask you, Mayor Ford, to tell the viewers, because some of them may know, some of them may not know. So please tell the viewers what happened back then and the significance of what Rosa Parks has done.
Well, before we do that, Doctor, let me just mention, you mentioned Mayor Bell. He's actually Dr. William Bell, who is the president of the Casey Family Programs Foundation, headquartered in Seattle, and the major sponsor for our conference. He is an outstanding native Mississippian, and we presented to him the Charles Evers, Mayor Charles Evers and Mayor Evers Award, because they too were heroes from Mississippi. Charles Evers, the first African-American mayor of a biracial city in the South, and of course Mayor Evers, who fought and died fighting for freedom as the head of the NAACP in Mississippi. And he was really touched that we would honor him in the name of those two outstanding people. So Rosa Parks, a lady who was born February 4, 1913, here in my town, Tuskegee, Alabama. When Rosa Parks sat down on a bus in Montgomery, Alabama, she was really standing up for freedom everywhere. She started a fire burning deep down in Dixie that became the Montgomery bus boycott that lasted for 381 days. And finally, the Supreme Court ruled that segregated buses were unlawful. But that movement brought into being Martin Luther King Jr. as a national leader in the civil rights movement. Leaders like Fred Gray and E.D. Nixon and many others who worked in that movement helped to lay the foundation for what later became the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965, from Selma to Montgomery. And we're getting ready to take on that march again, because still we're fighting for voting rights, which are under attack once again in our country. So Rosa Parks, the mother of the movement, we are fighting. I was in Atlanta recently with Globetrotter, Bobby Hunter, and others. Proud to see the Georgia legislature vote unanimously for a resolution calling for a national holiday in honor of Mrs. Rosa Parks. Can you imagine that? The Georgia legislature. And so this is a national movement that is underway. So let the tape roll.
Absolutely. Well, you know what? Let's put the video on. Engineer, if you can play the video that we have on Rosa Parks.
Now to one of the most memorable Americans ever to confront the issue of racial segregation head-on in this country 40 years ago. Rosa Parks, who in refusing to give up her seat on a city bus to a white man became the Mother Superior of the Civil Rights Movement. This week, at the age of 82, she's traveling this country with a group of students. Her story and what she is telling them in her own words tonight.
I remember well these struggles that we went through during my childhood when the Ku Klux Klan was very active. It just made us stronger to continue the struggle for freedom. This was the seat that I took as I got on the bus. A few white people boarded the bus, and one man was left standing, and I certainly did not plan to stand up, and I didn't consider myself breaking the law because I was in what was supposed to be our part of the bus. So my arrest brought about a protest from the people of Montgomery that lasted 381 days. And when we did go back on the bus, we didn't, the Supreme Court had handed down a decision that there would be no more racial segregation in transportation. When I was on the bus the time I was arrested, the only thing that was on my mind was that I did not want to be treated in that way.
It took her sitting down to get a people to stand up. And we can never, ever, ever forget her for that.
That happened to Rosa Parks in 1955. Just one more reminder that the happy-go-lucky 50s were not at all what they seem to be in the rose-colored glasses of our memories.
Wow. That's great.
I picked that out because I loved what he said. And he, you know, too many times in life, I think we tend to ignore. We tend to not look at the realities that need to change. And we overlook each other. And when you really think about it, and this is why I had a great time at your conference, and I look forward to working with a group because I see that everyone that I listened to and spoke at the conference was doing it in a proactive way. It wasn't just speaking. It wasn't rhetoric. But I saw that there was actually action proposed, action being done. And to me, that's what has to happen in the world. We have to stop ignoring how much our fellow man does one for the other. Because, you know, it'd be a really cold world if we didn't have people helping each other. And, you know, so I really think this is an amazing thing that it was what? Senator Donzella James organized the activity at the Capitol? How did that go?
Yeah, she did an outstanding job. Those women in the Georgia legislature, in the Senate in particular, they are dynamite. I tell you, Senator James, as well as Abel, Mabel, and others. I mean, I'm telling you, it was just phenomenal. They had an overflowing crowd of leaders from throughout Georgia and throughout the state. And the legislature, I had an opportunity to be introduced there by the longest serving member of the legislature, David Lucas, state senator. So it was just a great occasion. And we've had other efforts in California, in Ohio, in other states across the state. People are mobilizing now in support of this national holiday in honor of Rosa Parks. It has become an international effort, and that's why the World Conference of Mayors is behind it. We made it an international effort for Dr. King when we were pushing for the Dr. Martin Luther King national holiday. So we're going to make it happen, and we're asking for everyone to join with us in this movement to recognize for the first time a woman in a national, by having a national federal holiday proclaimed in honor of a woman. And this woman that we are supporting is none other than Mother Rosa Parks.
Well, I think it's a very well-deserved activity well-deserved honor and day, because if you really look at it and you look back at those times with what she did, she was very courageous. She stood up. She didn't just acquiesce, and she was willing to do something that changed the course of history. And I think that her example, not only for the African American people, but really for people in general. You know, there's too many things going on in the world that are wrong. My wife and I the other day were looking, and we saw that across the world there's a practice of taking acid that they use to declog bathrooms and throwing it in people's faces. And we saw the pictures online, and my wife and I were like aghast, and we go, how can that be happening in today's world, wherever it's happening? So I think that what you're doing is very important, because the example that it sets for human rights, for civil rights, you know, people, we need to start paying attention to that and not overlooking it. So, you know, I wanted to ask you something, because I saw, I saw how you were, you know, how you led the conference. What would you like to see happening with the world mayors and the country that you would like to see actually occurring more and more over the next 4 or 5 years?
Well, we're off and running now. As you know, I'm the founder of the World Conference of Mayors back in 1984, and I served for 6 years as president. And then I decided to move over and let someone else take the presidency, and we've had several presidents, but our present president, Mayor Ed Jones, presently has he's ill, has not been well. So once again, we want to thank him for his outstanding leadership as president of the World Conference of Mayors, and he's going to continue to be active with us. He's going to put his health first. And so he's going to serve as our president emeritus. But I am now, thanks to the board of directors, their support, I am now the president of the World Conference of Mayors once again. I have been serving as the Secretary General, as you know, and the CEO. But as president, I now will have the responsibility once again of taking the World Conference of Mayors to the international stage, promoting our work through our 7 goals, of which we call the 7 T's: trust, trade, tourism, technology transfer, Twin Cities, treasury, and training. Those are our 7 goals of the World Conference of Mayors. And we are proud to be a part of a global network, working with the country of Taiwan, working with countries around the great continent of Africa. I was in touch today with leaders from Haiti. We just adopted a resolution to push for the normalization, particularly as it relates to trade with Cuba, as well as our relationship with our mayors and officials in Canada. So it's a global effort. There's much work that must be done. Many of our leaders we've lost, like Dr. King and Bishop Tutu and Nelson Mandela and others. So the work must be continued, and I'm prepared to roll up my sleeves once again as president of the World Conference of Mayors to take this fight around the globe. And I'm just so happy to be able to collaborate with you and your organization, a drug-free world, just as we must have a world free of hunger. As I've often said, we must feed the children of the world. That song we
Absolutely, Mayor. You know, the other thing I wanted to mention is that
drugs.
the other thing I
Yes,
wanted
go
to
right ahead.
Absolutely. The other thing I wanted to mention is the Globetrotter, Robert Hunter. And I wanted, first of all, to thank you that you're organizing this drug-free world mayors conference basketball game to highlight and to bring some, illumination to the fact that we need a drug-free world through a sporting activity. And I wanted to mention, because you mentioned about women and mothers, and Mr. Robert Hunter, who said that what he wants to have continue there is something that he started in other basketball venues, which is a mother's foul shooting contest. And so, looking forward to it because, for those of the people who are watching the show, we want to invite them to come down on that Friday. I think that's March the 5th or the 4th?
Yeah, it's the 4th and 5th in historic Tuskegee, Alabama. We're going to invite you to come to our town, Tuskegee, the birthplace of Mrs. Rosa Parks, the home of Tuskegee University, the home of the flying, fighting Tuskegee Airmen, the land of Dr. Booker T. Washington and Dr. George Washington Carver. You are going to have a chance to come to Tuskegee because we're going to host our board meeting of the World Conference of Mayors. And I also have the honor of being the founding president of the Historic Black Towns and Settlements Alliance. And that's the organization made up of our historic towns like Tuskegee Institute, Alabama, Grambling, Louisiana, Prairie View, Texas, Eatonville, Florida, Princeville, North Carolina. It was Booker T. Washington who encouraged black people to organize their historic black colleges, but he also encouraged them to organize historic black towns around those colleges. And so we are an organization, the Historic Black Towns and Settlements Alliance. That's the other organization that I serve. Will be having a board meeting as well. But yes, we're going to have a basketball game in Tuskegee, Alabama. Last year, we dedicated 2 basketball courts in honor of the Globetrotters. Bobby Hunter, great Globetrotter, is doing a great work as an international ambassador of goodwill all over the world. And we're going to organize this basketball game during our stay in Tuskegee. And Doc, maybe you and I can get on the basketball court.
I'm gonna have to order some more T-shirts. We've unfortunately reached, but I'm gonna do that. We've unfortunately reached the end of the show, Mayor. Okay. Like the last time, it was a great time. I look forward to being with you March 4th and 5th in Tuskegee. And thank you for being on the show tonight.
God bless. Let's go have a drug-free world. Thank you.
You got it. For those of you viewing, have a good night.
Sometimes life can be so damn hard. You don't know where to go. Everything keeps falling apart. Yeah. You try to do your best, but only God knows that you've given everything you've got, but the world takes you down. You just keep moving on. Let your feet